Hey friends, it's Leah from Charlie Darwin Textiles, and in this video I'm going to show you how to add a little ruffle detail into any collar, like a band collar or a Peter Pan collar, or honestly, once you see how to do this, you could probably add it into almost any seam on your garment. You could add it into a yoke kind of bust line. You could add it into a button placket seam. You could add it into the bottom hem of a shirt or the hem of a sleeve. There's so many options, and I think a little ruffle detail like this adds such cute texture and daintiness, a little touch of something special and interesting, intrigue into your garments. You could even add it into all of those seams and just go nuts. The tutorial I'm going to give you today is actually just a segment from the full workshop video for my FINCH sewing pattern. It's a new pattern that I recently put out for this really cute flowy blouse that's like softly structured. It's super comfy to wear without a bra or with your ugliest bra. It's great for all seasons. And its best part is that it's so optimized for customization and adding personality to it. I packed in 3 different collar variations, 7 different sleeve variations, and a boatload of places that you could add in the really cute ruffle detail that we're gonna work on today. The FINCH top itself has a very comfy and relaxed fit. Kind of just feels like you're wearing a regular old cotton t-shirt, but it's these little details in the seams like the ruffle that we're gonna try out that really make it feel a lot more elevated. And I pinky promise they really aren't that hard to do, even if you're just a beginner. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. So right now I'll be showing you how to do this ruffle detail on a band collar first. This is also sometimes called a mandarin collar. You could do this with my sewing pattern, a sewing pattern you already have, or one that you've self-drafted. But basically I'm gonna start with 2 band collar pieces, also known as my collar stand pieces, and 1 long ruffle strip. When you're drafting your ruffle strip, what I recommend you do for the size of it is, as far as the width or length of this long strip, I do 1.9 times the length of the seam area that you're going to be nesting it into. So on mine, I will be putting it between the 2 collar stand notches here. And then you want to make the height of this ruffle strip 1.5 inches or 3.8 centimeters. We're going to go ahead and start with the band collar, and I'm going to show you how I do ruffles in mine. So we have our long ruffle strip, and we're going to start with the wrong sides facing up. We're going to fold in the little short ends over here. We're just going to fold those in by about 1/4 inch. So we're folding those to the wrong side and pressing. And then we're gonna go ahead and fold the entire long strip in half lengthwise all the way down. So now wrong sides of the fabric are facing each other inside that fold. And now we're going to take this over to our sewing machine, and we're going to do a gathering stitch. So we're gonna set our stitch length to your longest stitch length, and we're gonna stitch all the way from one end down to the other one. We're gonna back stitch at the first end, but we're not going to back stitch at the second end. Instead, we wanna leave a tail of threads that's about 6 inches long so that we can pull and gather our stitches. We're gonna do this stitch twice. We're gonna do one that is 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge, and then we're gonna do a second one that's about 1/4 of an inch away from the raw edge. All right, here's what that seam looks like finished. We've got back stitching over here, and we've got our loose threads over here. And I'm going to go ahead and start gathering these threads. And we're gonna go ahead and grab the 2 threads that are kind of on the top side for us here, and we're going to pull gently, kind of holding the fabric and pushing that gathering along as we go. There's going to be a little bit of resistance here because you're dealing with 2 layers of fabric trying to gather these ruffles, and so this is going to feel a little bit tighter or more difficult to push these ruffles along than it usually does when you're ruffling just a single piece of fabric. But try your best to bear with it. You want to pull just gently enough that you're not breaking your threads, but it is going to take a little bit of finagling to push that gathering all the way through. On your collar stand, you should have marked 2 notches, and that is where we are going to put our ruffle in between. So we want to pull those gathering stitches on our ruffle strip until it's made it so that the raw edge of our ruffle strip is approximately the length between the 2 notches, and mine's looking pretty close. So I'm just going to kind of move around my ruffles a little bit so that they are more evenly spaced, and they might kind of twist around on you a little bit. That's all right. You can always come in with your iron and squish them, flatten them out, get them nice and flat and orderly. And what we want to do to start is grab just one of our collar stand pieces, and we're going to place our ruffle strip in between our notches. Get those raw edges all lined up of the ruffle strip and the top edge of our collar stand, and we'll pin that in place. Now we'll take this over to the sewing machine, and just to hold this ruffle piece in place before we construct our full collar here, we're going to run a straight stitch over and through all of our ruffles and the collar stand, all the way from one end to the other, with about a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So this is going to fall somewhere between like a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. You'll send it through your sewing machine with the ruffle side up. You don't want to put the ruffles down into the sewing machine, or they might kind of get stuck in your feed dogs. Go ahead and backstitch at both ends. Here's what that seam looks like finished. Now we're ready to assemble our full band collar. So you have your 2 band collar pieces, and we're going to take one of them and we're going to have it wrong side facing up, and we're going to fold the long raw edge of it up toward the wrong side by 1/2 inch and press that in place. And I say 1/2 inch, but to be safe, you probably want to do more like 3/8 inch, just a little short of a 1/2 inch. Now we're going to take this band collar piece and we're going to place it right sides facing with our other band collar piece. And your ruffles should be facing up as well. You're just going to sandwich those ruffles in there. So we got our band collar pieces. I'm going to place them right sides facing, and I'm going to line up the curved upper edge of that band collar. So it's not going to reach right here. It's just going to match up that curved upper edge, and I like to kind of align everything, press it with my iron real quick just to make sure everything is kind of sticking together, and then we'll come around with our pins and pin everything in place. Now we'll take this over to our sewing machine, and we're going to stitch from the bottom corner here around that curve, along the straight top edge, around that corner, and down to this bottom edge on the other side. We're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, back stitching at each end. Here's what that seam looks like finished. Now we're ready to trim that seam down to 1/8 of an inch. So all the way around this curve, I'm going to use my scissors and just trim off the excess. You're gonna have some good sharp scissors to get through all your layers of your ruffle and your band collar if you did the ruffle, but make your way through. All right, here's what that cut looks like. Now we're gonna turn our collar right side out, and you can see my little ruffles are peeking out and finally saying hello. Very exciting. And I am going to press my collar so that no fabric is like stuck in that seam. There's gonna be fabric that wants to kind of get sucked into it, and it's your job with your iron to come around and make sure that everything's lying flat. Now, especially when I turn it around, more fabric has gotten sucked into that seam on the back, and I want to make sure that I've got the entirety of my collar stand flat outside of it. All right, in the process, we kind of lost my fold here, but I can still see it. So I'm gonna reset it with my iron, tuck that under where it used to be tucked under, and press. All right, and here is what we're looking at. And now we have assembled our band collar and we are ready to attach it to the neckline. If you're doing something like a Peter Pan collar, it would be a very similar assembly technique. So you will gather up your ruffles, and I find that because these ruffles are a bit harder to gather, I just do this in 2 different segments, so it's not too long of a strip to have to pull those strings on. And similar to the band collar, I'm going to be placing the raw edge of my ruffle strip around the curved outer edge of my Peter Pan collar. I'm going to work from the kind of right angle corner all the way around to the center back, and then do the same thing over on the other side of the collar. Then, just like the band collar, I am going to stitch this in place real quick. Then I'm going to sandwich it all with right sides facing between the 2 Peter Pan collar pieces, and stitch around that outer curved edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, trim it down to about 1/8 inch, and then flip it all right side out. Once again, there is going to be fabric that's going to get kind of sucked into that seam, so I'll use my iron and my fingertips to sort of pull the fabric out, get everything laying really nice and flat. Optional here, you can come in and do a top stitch 1/8 inch from the edge. Then you're ready to attach the Peter Pan collar to your neckline. To see the full tutorial, including how to actually attach this collar to the neckline of your bodice, check out my FINCH sewing pattern over at charliedarwintextiles.com/patterns. You can get it as a PDF, as a printed pattern, or as a full-blown sewing kit where I'll give you all of the fabrics and notions that you need to get started using a really nice plant-dyed linen fabric in the color of your choice. Illustrated instructions and a full video tutorial are waiting for you over there. Go check it out, and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe if you'd like more videos from me in the future. I'm sending you all such good vibes. Love you so big, and I hope you're having a really great day today. Just know that I'm sending you a virtual brain hug right now. Good luck with everything, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.